Welcome to the Butterfly Effect. I'm Chris Horner. This is stage 18 of the Tour de France. Almost 145 kilometers. We'll call it about 90 miles in length. They're going to go over 3 big categorized climbs, and they're going to finish up Hautacam. 13.5 kilometers at just about 8%. This last climb, Hautacam, is a monster. I remember doing it in 2014 when Vincenzo Nibali won the Tour de France. And to this day, I still think the 2014 Tour de France with Vincenzo Nibali was the greatest Tour de France that ever could have been, because Chris Froome was flying but crashed out on the cobblestone day. Alberto Contador was on great form. And Vincenzo Nibali, everyone thinks he won just because those two guys crashed out. But I was there. Vincenzo Nibali was on exceptional form when we were in England, and the two riders crashing out after Vincenzo Nibali already had the race leader's yellow jersey and did some spectacular work through the cobblestones in the rain and wet. It was a miserable day that year in the cobblestones. But let's get here to stage 18 because we got a fantastic race here. And right away when the racing starts from kilometer 0, it's Wout van Aert throwing in the big attack, the Jumbo-Visma rider. He is on a mission right now. He's going to go up the road, and he has Nielsen Palace from EF Education with him. Nielsen Palace can't do anything about it, and Wout van Aert is going to drop him quickly into this stage 18, and then he's riding solo up there. Behind, we're going to see some attacks. It's going to come from Niels Polet, the Bora Hansgrohe rider, but he can't bridge up to Wout van Aert. Wout van Aert's not waiting for anyone. Guys, he is going on the pedals. He's going to be up there just over 10 kilometers. I'll call it about 11 kilometers before he gets brought back. And then it's going to be big groups after big groups. Jumbo-Visma sending up riders with Tispanoot up there coming out the back early on this stage. It's going to be Mikhail Berg from UAE Team Emirates. He's having a hard stage. Remember yesterday, stage 17, he was amazing on that stage and started blowing up the field, but now he's paying the price as the UAE Team Emirates riders coming out the back of the field here. Now up front, it's still just big breaks after big breaks. Wout van Aert's trying to get in everything. He's on the front pulling hard. Every time he's in a break, he's in small breaks, he's in big breaks. Tispanoot's in big breaks. And then with about 110 kilometers, all of it starts to come back together. Then about 105 kilometers, a big break starts going up the road. And then it's Wout van Aert jumping across in a small group, trying to get up to the big group that's just up front. Now we're going to go into this small, crazy town. Take a look at all the islands in the roads. It's going to narrow, it's going to twist, turn, crazy traffic island everywhere. And now as the peloton starts coming down, it's going to be a crash. We look at the picture coming through the right turn there. We're going to see it's Jack Bauer. Jack Bauer is going to slop behind the motorcycle. Now he's getting a draft off the motorcycle. He's going to start to slingshot around him. As he does, he's going to run right into the back of the UAE Emirates team. The car, now looking at the car there as he's hitting the back. First he hit off the motorcycle, but now let's take a pause. Take a pause. Let's bring that picture right back. When we look up at the front, there's a crash up front. Up there, it's Niels Eckhoff, the DSM rider. He's basically crashing at the exact same moment as Jack Bauer from Bike Exchange is crashing. Niels Eckhoff clipped the motorcycle. We'll back the film up just a little bit further because as the road narrowed, it was Niels Eckhoff that was just trimming the curb there and the car on the right side of him. He trimmed through there, but then he clipped the motorcycle in front. When he did, he went tumbling off onto the pavement, and then the UAE Team Emirates had to hit the brakes harder. They were going to run the kid over. Now all of a sudden, we back the film up some more. There you go. It's Jack Bauer, and now he's colliding with the motorcycle and the car as both riders in the picture at the same time are flying off the bike. Now when Jack Bauer gets up, he's all upset. He's walking around trying to find his bike. He's looking up front, and it's Niels Eckhoff up there as he's getting up, and it's the gendarme, the policeman here from France. He's grabbed the bike and he's walked across the street. I think Jack Bauer at this point in time thinks that the police officer has his bike as he's walking further down the descent trying to go get his bike. He realizes it's not his bike as Niels Eckhoff grabs his bike and takes off up the road. Now Jack Bauer's walking back up to his bike, and it's a spectator that's polite enough to hold his bike. Hands his bike over to Jack Bauer, gives him a pat on the shoulder. Jack Bauer adjusts his bike, and then he'll get back on. Both riders will spend some time at the med car trying to get all their wounds wrapped up so they can get back into this stage 18, this legendary stage here at the Tour de France, and it's the final mountain stage. Let me remind you guys, we're going up over 3 big climbs. It's the Col de Bisque first, the Spandel that's going to follow it, and then Hautacam. Now let's get back into the racing, because that front group, as they came out of that town, Wout van Aert bridged up to that big group in front, and now, I don't know how many guys, I was completely lost. I'll call it 30, might have been 35, might have been 29, I don't know. It's a lot of guys, but Thies Benoot from Jumbo-Visma's up there, Wout van Aert's up there, and just about every other team's represented. Now, they're kind of working up there, and Wout van Aert's doing massive pulls, Thies Benoot's doing massive pulls. You look back in the peloton, who's pulling? It's Quick Step. They're on the front pulling hard. Cofidis is trying to help out, bring all this stuff back together. We'll see a little bit of communication with Jonas Vingegaard, Jumbo-Visma, race leaders, yellow jersey. He's talking up there with the Quick Step guys. I would assume he's asking, hey, what are you guys doing up here? Why are you pulling so hard? Well, Quick Step missed a move, and they want to bring it back. Cofidis got the KOM jersey. Gasquet up here who wants to get back up so he can get some KOM points. Cofidis and Quick Step won't quite bring that break back, but when we start the Col de Bisque proper, that group up front, their gap's still only about 30 seconds or so, as that group is massive in size. Wout van Aert's pulling like a monster still up to Col de Bisque, and behind we're going to see a little bit of chaos because the group is getting smaller. There's starting to be more and more attacks. Menkes from Intermarché, he's going to throw an attack when the Col de Bisque gets a little bit into the beginning of the climb, as the Intermarché rider needs some time if he wants to move up on the general classification. He starts throwing in some attacks. Nairo Quintana, he's got his archaic Samsic guys on the front for a little bit, and then everything's going to settle down back there because Jumbo-Visma have Sepp Kuss that they're putting on the front, trying to slow the speeds to give that massive size break with Wout van Aert and Thies Benoot in there, a little bit of distance so that there's some playroom, because we all know what's going to happen, right? We expect Brandon McNulty at some point in time to light this race up for Tadej Pogačar to give him one chance here at a victory at the Tour de France in 2022. Now, as things start to slow down, that break up front, it starts getting a little bit of distance. The gap starts going out to about 3, just about 4 minutes or so. Trek Segafredo is on the front, and they're trying to set up Giulio Ciccone here, and with Bach Mollema on the front setting some tempo. Movistar got Enric Mas in here, and they're going to do a little bit of work over to Col de Bisque too, but when we come up to the top, we'll see the gap. It's still about 4 minutes to the group behind. Nathan Van Hooijdonk from Jumbo-Visma had found his way back up to the front of the group, but now he's setting tempo in the peloton of GC favorites. Well, guys, this group's probably 25, 30 guys max at the most going up to Col de Bisque when we near the top. Nathan Van Hooijdonk did an amazing job to find his way back up to this front group to start setting some tempo so Sepp Kuss didn't have to do any work at the front. How Nathan Van Hooijdonk's finding the legs at this moment to be such an elite group is showing just the class here of Nathan Van Hooijdonk riding the front. Now when the peloton goes over the top, like I said, it's about a 4-minute gap to the guys up front, and up front it's Trek Segafredo. They're bombing down the descent. Movistar is having all kinds of problems with Enric Mas, who's either not making it through the corner or maybe the cameras missed some kind of incident that Enric Mas had. Either way, when they start the next climb, the Spandel, Enric Mas is coming out the back because he lost some time coming down the descent. When we go back to the peloton, it was Arceus Samsic that was on the front, starting to descent after the Col de Bisque, but they're not going to be able to do too much damage. They are going to do just enough so that the gap up in the front of that big group's not going to be too large when we start the second climb, Spandel. The peloton goes in the climb, and as always, as we had always expected, it's Brandon McNulty on the front, the UAE Team Emirates rider. He's drilling it hard. Remember yesterday, he brought it down to just 2 riders on his wheel. Today he's going to have a bit more difficulty. He's going to ride for a few kilometers, and then we know what's coming. Yep, it's Tadej Pogačar throwing in his first attack. We see him throw in the attack. Jonas Vingegaard covers it quickly. Then, of course, it's countered with another attack from Tadej Pogačar. Again, Jonas is solidly locked back on. With each attack, Sepp Kuss is coming back, and then the Jumbo-Visma rider setting some tempo on the front for his race leader, Jonas Vingegaard. We'll see one time after Tadej Pogačar's attack, Geraint Thomas, who got dislodged every time, G finally sees, and he knows that this is a great chance to possibly get a little bit of time on this second climb at the Tour de France Stage 18. Geraint Thomas knows if he needs a little bit of time, this is the time to take it. He'll accelerate, get that little bit of a gap amongst the two first and second place here on the general classification. Then Tadej Pogačar, he's not going to mess around. He's going to throw in another attack. That's going to bring back Geraint Thomas as Tadej Pogačar is trying to dislodge Jonas Vingegaard, but he can't do it. Race leader's yellow jersey's locked on every time. We go up to the front of the breakaway now. Guess what? Wout van Aert's on the front again. He's going to do 4-5 kilometers of the Spandel on the front, because as the time gap started to drop with Tadej Pogačar's big acceleration, Jumbo-Visma went Wout van Aert over this climb. Tiesj Benoot got dropped off, and Wout van Aert is the sole Jumbo-Visma rider up here, but he's riding tempo up front. He's keeping the gap to all the favorites in the GC back there battle as he's going up over the KOM here on the Spandel. Just before they reach the top, guess what? Wout van Aert throws in a massive acceleration to get maximum KOM points here on the Spandel. He'll go across the top with that sprint, taking maximum points. At this spot at the Tour de France, at this moment, if Wout van Aert could hold off everybody behind, and remember, it's Sepp Kuss back there, it's his race leader, Jonas Vingegaard, and Tadej Pogačar doing most of the damage. So if something should happen, Wout van Aert at this point in time with these sprint points going over to KOM, he could win the green jersey here at the Tour de France, and he could win the KOM jersey. Now let's go back to the GC favorites, because as we near the top, we're going to see Tadej Pogačar. He's going to sit up, slip a little ice pack between his shoulder blades, and then he's going to throw in one more attack going over the KOM of the Spandel with race leader Jonas Vingegaard attached on his wheel. We go down the descent up front. There's just three riders. It's Wout van Aert drilling it down the descent. It's Thibaut Pinot, FDJ, and then we got Ineos, Danny Martinez. Three riders in front, still got a gap on the favorites, but as Tadej Pogačar's coming down the descent, we got to believe, we know the MO here. If he can't drop him up the climb, he's going to drop race leader trying to go down the climb. Right away, early in the descent, going into the left turn, Jonas Vingegaard clips his pedal, the back wheel comes up, his foot comes out of the pedal, he saves it without going off the road and without tacking. Clips back into his pedal, sprints back up to Tadej Pogačar. He's not hanging around. The Slovenian's trying to drop Jonas Vingegaard, the race leader from Jumbo-Visma, but he can't get rid of him. Jumbo-Visma rider, he has some fantastic form. He's going to get back up to Tadej Pogačar. Then a few corners later, coming into the left, Tadej Pogačar goes just a little bit off on the entry of this left turn, comes out, has to go wide to the right. Jonas Vingegaard is going to shoot through the inside, so he's got a clear line. As that happens, Tadej Pogačar goes off to the right side of the road. He's in the gravel, starts pedaling, and when he does, I gotta believe the gravel's getting a little bit thicker. He's gonna lose the front tire into the soft sand there. And once that does, Tadej Pogačar sitting second on the general classification, who's been the aggressor coming down this descent, trying to make Jonas slow down in one of these corners. Now he goes down hard and crashes. The Slovenian will get up fast. He'll jump on his bike, and he'll start sprinting to catch up to the race leader's yellow jersey. Jonas Vingegaard, to my surprise while I'm watching it live, Jonas Vingegaard sits up, waits for Tadej Pogačar. What a gentleman. We're talking about the last descent here, last major descent here at the Tour de France. Last time for Tadej Pogačar to be able to drop the race leader's jersey, and he was trying to drop him when he crashed, and Jonas is going to sit up and wait for Tadej Pogačar. They come back together, give a little fist bump and a shake, little thumbs up from Tadej Pogačar, and then he's going back to the front for UAE team Emirates, trying to drill it. Only problem for Tadej Pogačar, the rest of this descent's not really so technical for the Slovenians, so there's not any more crazy corners coming up for Tadej Pogačar to dislodge Jonas Vingegaard. Now behind, Geraint Thomas. He's got a little bit of help because he got dropped by all those attacks from Jonas Vingegaard and Tadej Pogačar especially, and with that gap back there to G. Thomas, guess what? Sepp Kuss comes back, Tiesj Benoot comes back, and now they're riding for the Ineos rider. Ineos pretty happy. Geraint Thomas, I got to believe at this point in time, because this is a big stage and we still have Hautacam coming up. With Tadej Pogačar knowing he can't do any more damage on the descent, those guys in the back are catched with Geraint Thomas, Sepp Kuss, Tiesj Benoot, Meintjes, Intermarché rider. He is latched on. The attacks he did up over the first climb, Col d'Abyss, gave him a little bit of a gap, and now he's still there with the front leaders right here. And now there's three riders up front where we're going to start the last and final climb here, Hautacam. Now Danny Martinez, Thibaut Pinot, who got gapped a few times coming down the descents, he's found his way back up, and these three riders now will come in to Hautacam locked in together. We'll see Thibaut Pinot. He's going to sit up, he's going to stretch the back, And Thibaut, I know too, I feel how you feel because I'm 50 years old and this day was incredibly exciting. So when Hautacam started, I'm watching Thibaut Pinot stretch his back. I'm thinking, Thibaut, my back hurts too. And I'm just sitting in the chair. Thibaut Pinot get right back to work, start pushing hard on the pedals. They got a dilemma up here. They got Wout van Aert sitting on their wheel. Now Thibaut Pinot is a pure climber, and Danny Martinez from Ineos is a pure climber, but Wout van Aert's been destroying this whole field. Let me remind you guys, he was on the front for 10 kilometers when this stage started, represented in almost every other attack all the way till about 105 kilometers to go, and then bridged up to the big move with TdF. Drove it hard over to Col de Bisque, drove for at least 5-6 kilometers on the Spandel trying to hold off the favorites. And now here we are on Hautacam. Danny Martinez and Pinot. They only got one option. If they sit up, they're going to get caught by the GC favorites. If they keep pulling, though, you got Wout van Aert sitting on your wheel. But remember, this is a monster climb. It's a historic climb, so you got to believe Wout van Aert's going to come off, right? I already told you guys how much pulling he's been doing on the front. He sprinted for the Green Points jersey, sprinted for the KOM on the Spandel on this climb, and now he's still sitting on the wheel of two pure climbers. Thibaut Pinot thinks he can drop him, though. He's going to throw in big accelerations. Wout van Aert's not even budging. He's solidly locked on. Danny Martinez is going to do some quick accelerations too, but still Wout van Aert's there. And then guess what? Wout van Aert's going to put in his own attack. He'll throw in a big attack, and that'll dislodge Thibaut Pinot. And after that, Thibaut Pinot knows his stage 18 here at the Tour de France is over because there's no shot for FDJ rider winning on Hautacam. Wout van Aert's pulling hard. He looks back over at Danny Martinez, and Martinez is like, okay, maybe I'll pull through. Eventually, Martinez pulls through, and behind, guess what's happening? Well, it's getting reduced back there because TdF started the climb. Sepp Kuss took over, and he's doing solid work on the front. Got this group just broken down to the elite riders. Geraint Thomas is there for a bit, and then finally Geraint Thomas starts to come off. With that, Sepp Kuss is starting to come up now to Wout van Aert, who knows his race leader is behind with about 5.5 kilometers to go. Wout van Aert sits up. Sepp Kuss comes up to him, looks over at his left shoulder. He's like, you got this, right, big guy? Big guy's nod says yes. Sepp Kuss pulls over to the right. Wout van Aert's throwing down. Now it only takes 1 kilometer later, at just about 4.5 kilometers, Tadej Pogačar comes off the front while Wout van Aert is pulling. Wout van Aert knows he's got race leader Jonas Vingegaard, his teammate, on his wheel, and he just throws everything into it. When he does, he's pulling hard. We start seeing the time gap open up to Tadej Pogačar, and then 1 kilometer later, about 3.5 kilometers to go, it's time for Jonas Vingegaard, Jumbo-Visma, to go to work. Wout van Aert pull off hard to the right, blow spectacularly, but fantastic work from the big guy. Now Jonas Vingegaard with about 3.5 kilometers to go. He's accelerating. He's got about a 30-second gap right away. 2 kilometers to go. It's getting up to 42nd. Now with 1K to go, we know Jonas Vingegaard is going to win here on stage 18 on Hautacam and most likely wrap up this year's 2022 Tour de France because the time gap when he crosses the line, and let me tell you, he was sprinting still at 500 meters, but when he crosses the line, he's exhausted, comes through, looks fantastic for the overall victory here at the Tour de France with this stage 18 win. And with that, we're going to look back. It's going to be Tadej Pogačar. He's not going to cross the line for about 1 minute and 4 seconds for the Slovenian, who just kind of gave up some time throughout the whole last few kilometers of this mountain stage on Hautacam. Third place, if you can believe it or not, is Wout van Aert on the stage of Hautacam. Now, when you look at the other classifications on the Mountain KOM, it's Jonas Vingegaard, Jumbo-Visma, who's got the Mountain Points jersey too. So, Jumbo-Visma had a shot at Wout van Aert taking green and polka dot. Instead, it'll go to Jonas Vingegaard with his stage 18 win here at the Tour de France, and he'll have that competition wrapped up by the points. Other finishers on the stage is 4th place, Geraint Thomas from Team Ineos. That'll keep him onto the podium here at the Tour de France. This was a big ride for Team Ineos, Geraint Thomas, who won in 2018. He's already been second at the Tour de France in 2019, and now he's going podium here at 36 years of age. Congratulations, Geraint Thomas, on a very solid 2022 Tour de France result here. Now, when I dissect today's stage 18, because that's what I like to do, right? There's no way I can support the tactics of Jumbo-Visma on today's stage. Guys, this just never happens. If you're like, Chris, this was a magical plan that was put together. You No one on the planet can predict this. It just doesn't happen. That's what made this stage so crazy and amazing stage to watch here at the Tour de France, to go along with that stage 11 of this year's Tour de France. But you can't predict these tactics. You can't say, wow, you can do 10 kilometers on your own at the front. Wow, you can follow all the attacks. Wow, you can win the green sprint points as other teams were fighting them to collect the prize money, I would assume. Wow, you're going to pull the first climb on Col de Bisque. You're going to pull the second climb on Spandel, and then you're going to sprint for the KOM jersey. You're going to help pull some of the descent. Then you're going to pull 4 or 5 kilometers up Hautacam and finish in this front group so you could be there for Jonas Vingegaard, so you can lead him out to drop Tadej Pogačar. It can't be done. That math cannot be worked out. But some simple math that could be worked out, a different strategy, one that I would have employed safely, I believe, on today's stage. You keep the group together. Wout clearly has good form. Sepp Kuss has good form. Jonas has good form. You send Thies Benoot, maybe Wout, if he could follow an easy move going up the road. But you keep the team always together. You come into the Col de Bisque. You allow other teams to attack, and you just set some tempo. If you got a rider up the front, doesn't matter so much. But if you got him, you can bring him back. Okay, I see the benefit. But if you got Wout van Aert climbing the way he is, if there was any trouble, remember, one flat tire, one crash, one little bump somewhere that knocks you off the road, all of a sudden the chemistry changes completely, and you have Wout van Aert, who could possibly be tired up the road, Thies Benoot, who must have been tired from today's stage, and basically Sepp Kuss with Jonas Vingegaard, the only riders left in the peloton. It was an incredibly dangerous tactic played by Jumbo-Visma. They went big on today's stage, and they got big results. But I think when I watch today's stage, I feel deep down in my heart, I know this was a massive risk when you just didn't have to take the risk. Certainly, with big risk, you get big rewards. But with big risk, you can lose big things here at the Tour de France too. At the end of the day, I love today's stage. I was on pins and needles from kilometer 0 all the way to the finish. But I would have never expected the results here from Jumbo-Visma. I was thinking it was going to be chaos throughout the whole stage. Tadej Pogačar could do something spectacular, put Jonas Vingegaard under trouble, and he wouldn't have the right teammates around him, because Wout van Aert could have blown, Thies Benoot could have blown, Laporte should blow on the first climb. Nathan van Hooijdonk, who had a really good Col de Bisque climb, he easily could have not been there. These tactics I don't like, can't support it, but I love the racing. Congratulations, Jumbo-Visma. Throughout this year's 2022 Tour de France, you have put on a show from stage 1 all the way through to here at stage 18. I enjoyed watching today's stage immensely. Sepp Kuss, you were aces today for Jonas Vingegaard, your race leader in the race leader's yellow jersey, and most likely the 2022 Tour de France. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. It doesn't get any better than today, but we still got a good, hopefully, sprint stage tomorrow, individual time trial, which I would imagine Wout van Aert can win, and then the Shams, which Wout van Aert might win again. In all honesty, Wout van Aert might win the next 3 stages with the kind of form the Belgium kid has. So like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next edition real soon.